Alright guys, so say you have your sequence where you panned and you capture the images. Here's our sun going from camera right to camera left. Now you can decide whether if you want to hold on control or command and click the specific ones you want in the sequence, or you just include all of them. So in this case I'm going to include all 9 images. So I'm doing so on the bridge. I clicked on my first one, hold shift and click my last one. You could click and drag a marquee over top. Just press command to not select that one and select them. So it's up to you. So in this case, I clicked once, move my mouse to another last one on the sequence, hold shift on your keyboard, click on it, and then select all those on bridge. Alright, so this is probably the best way to get the images stacked into Photoshop is go into tools on the bridge, click on Photoshop. In this case, we're going to do a photo merge. And as I'm talking, Photoshop is going to open up. A dialog box like this will pop up. Just click on auto. It's going to try to stitch all these images. Leave all these alone. Just keep blend images together and you should get a pretty decent result. Okay? So, as you wait, you'll see that Photoshop has merged the images in. It is now doing a very sophisticated algorithm where it's taking the images, adding layer masks, and stitching based on pixels what it feels is the best to kind of merge these images together. Now remember, you're most likely in one spot moving your camera around, so the perspective of the shot is going to be a little bit unique. Okay? So you can see it's kind of like perspective here, but technically, if you can see, we're probably photographing from where this point is and moving across. So that's going to happen naturally because the lens, what Photoshop does, it takes similarities in the background and tries to blend them, warp them together. And in doing so, it does these masks. Now, the result may or may not be what you want. In doing so, I'm going to explain the layer masks. Well, technically, there should have been 1 or 2 images right here. And we go back to bridge, we can see that when he took off, I'll just press spacebar here, and next image, there was a shot between and another shot. Well, Photoshop didn't technically include it in the overall image, but technically that shot is there. Okay? As you can see, guys, students, that there's a thumbnail here. It's blank. It's pretty much all black. So it is most likely that image. So 2020 20 bracket 0. If I go back to bridge, you can see that that image does exist. It's just right there. Just Photoshop didn't include it in the actual masking or visually. Okay, that can be adjusted. Let me explain. Okay, so let's eyeball hide these images and have this image here. So what Photoshop did, it pieced it with other, it linked them together. It has a layer mask. And in this layer mask, you can see the black, there's a white little area, and that's the area that's visible. Okay? We can manipulate that mask. Okay, so for example, if you wanted to hide or unhide things, you can do that. Now let's just go to the layer below and to see what Photoshop did here. Now you can see that it just took really one small section of that image to include it in the overall stitching of it. So it didn't include much. But technically, if we click on the thumbnail and we go to our brush tool, B for brush, right? And in this case, we wanted to now brush in with white. Now, typically I'll just click on the most top left if you're wondering if it's white or not. If you click on this little icon here, it'll default to black and white. Okay? So I will just click and drag with my brush, okay, and reveal what's being shown here. So that exists, and you can see my thumbnail. Now, why is that not showing if I just revealed it? Well, it's the layer order. I can now tell Photoshop that this layer I want to be above, and then he shows up. Now, in realizing this image is not the best choice to select, okay? So I'm just gonna go back to my history and just show you that. I'm just going back to auto blend, okay? In retrospect, perhaps the third layer was a better choice to unmask. So let's click on the thumbnail and make sure you have the thumbnail selected, okay? And what I'm gonna do here is just kind of hide everything else, just have this layer, and I can see with my white on, I'm going to reveal the subject that I want to reveal in this layer, okay, and including the shadows, because the shadows add realism to it, okay. The nice thing about layer masks, they are not permanent, they're non-destructive. So if you felt you want to do a change, you can always do that. Again, the layer order will be of importance here. So you're saying, oh wait, there it is. Well, what's happening? Well, just click and drag this layer above the other one, and he will pop up. Now let's reveal the other layers, and you can see that's looking pretty good. All right. Well, what about this one? Well, it's up to you. Click on that thumbnail if you feel you wanted to include that image. And again, let's go on eyeball and see the result here. Well, there it is. It's missing my son. So I'm going to go back and reveal it. Reveal him. And there he is. Let's get a bit of his foot, the shadow. And we can add that back to the mask. And if you make a mistake, watch this. Just swap and have black. And you can say, all right, I didn't want that area. So just, you can actually take out by just including black and white in your layer masks. So again, the layer order is off. So once I reveal it, you're like, I did that work for nothing. No, just click and drag this and bring it up until it's above the layers that it's masking. And there you go. You have a composition using Photoshop's masking layer. Okay. Let's see this eyeball. This one really just it was inclusive for that, so we'll leave it in there. Great. So we'll save this. Okay, your last name underscore your first name. Task 3. Okay. I'm just gonna put the word pan here so students understand this is a pan result. Okay. I overrode a file similar. Now, just one last thing before I move on. Well, Mr. Almeida, what about cropping? Like, there's a lot of negative pixels here. It doesn't look complete. Well, a few things you can do here. One thing before I crop this is I'm going to actually do something cool. I'm just going to make a new folder. Now, in doing so, I'm going to highlight all these layers and click on this little icon right here. Okay, if you can see, it's a little folder. And I'm going to make this a group. Okay. With them selected, they all automatically do that. You can technically make a group folder and then click and drag them in. What's nice about this is if I go to my move tool and I say I want to auto select group, I can now adjust the perspective of this. Okay. You can technically go to edit, transform, and play with specifically distortion or perspective. But if you have your move tool selected and have group instead of layer, you can now manipulate all of these objects all in one because they're inside a group. So what I'm going to do here is just to show you, I'm going to hold the command button on my Mac if you're a PC guy, it's control. And I can actually play with the perspective of my image and bring it inwards and outwards. I'm clicking and dragging with my mouse. Okay. And holding control does a cool perspective. If I don't have control or control click, it just kind of enlarges it. So having the command or control button allows you to play with the perspective, and you can manipulate those layers together in one as they're grouped. In this case, I just want to play with the kind of convexing or concaving of this image over here. And say I'm happy with that, I press enter, and I was able to manipulate the whole group of images from this point to now this point. So that kind of gets rid of these extra pixels. Now I'm going to crop it using the crop tool, fourth tool from the bottom. What I tell students is just use ratio, clear it if there's any discrepancies, right? And what you can do here is decide how much you want to trim from this composition, right? Whether you want more or less of that area to be added, okay? I'm happy with that. I'm going to trim here. And actually, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to press enter or return on my keyboard. This is going to tell the computer that I want to trim this composition. If you have some transparent pixels that you want to fix, various tools that I've shown throughout the class. In this case, you can use the clone stamp tool. There is the tool of content aware, which is in the same category as the spot healing brush. In this case, what can I do here? Content aware is not bad. Yeah, content aware, how this works. I'm going to tell the computer that I want kind of these pixels to be, oh, it can't be moved to other groups, so I gotta select the last segment here. And actually, you know what? That's not gonna work. Let me Command D, get rid of that. And yeah, let me just double check here. And I think the mask is kind of preventing that. So let's go to white brush. There it is. The mask was hiding the content aware's ability to do that. So, and it missed just one pixel. Oh my goodness, do I really care? Let's see. Okay, while I'm here, I'm on that thumbnail. Let me just show you another method of maybe using the clone stamp tool. So, I'm gonna reduce, okay, using the parentheses, the brackets. You could, if you wanted to, hold Control Option, click and drag the hardness and softness by going up and down with your mouse. I hold the Alt Option button on my keyboard to tell the computer I want these pixels to replace that one. Okay, so Command 0. And there's my end result. I'm going to save it. Okay. There's the PSD version, and of course you're going to go File, Save As, and save the JPEG version with the drop down here. JPEG. And the same area you'll have saved. Alright, so hopefully this helps people understand layer masks and how what Photoshop does in merging the images together and your ability to kind of play with the layer masks. Okay?